All right. Good evening. Happy Hanukkah. Merry Christmas. It's that time of the year again. And welcome to episode number 38 of the Below the Yellow Line podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Landy Pavlon, alongside Justin Hebert. Danny Ford will be back with us soon. He's just getting some things done right now. And we have special guest driver Joey Gase. Welcome to the podcast. I'm very excited. You are the first Cup driver to join our panel.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, guys.
So, unlike most podcasts we always have a race or two to cover, but this time we have point blank zero. And we have some headlines that took place over the past week, which includes sensation driver Haley Deegan will move to Ford and drive full-time in the ARCA Racing, the ARCA Menard Series in 2020 for David Gilliland's team, DGR Crosley Racing. We'll get more into that a little bit later, but there's some other news in ARCA, including Venery Motorsports signing Chandler Smith and Ryan Repko to return to the team. We also have James Small, the new crew chief to Martin Truex Jr. in the 19 Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, replacing Canadian Cole Pearn, who was the champion crew chief in 2017 when they were at Furniture Row Racing. Toyota and Lexus get a hold of their Nürburgring 24-hour plans. We'll get into sports car racing much later in the podcast, but let's start off with Joey Gase, our guest. First and foremost, you're on that headlines. Rick Ware Racing 2020 full-time Cup driver. How does that sound?
It sounds great. It's it's always every racer's dream, when they're growing up and when they're racing to make it to the NASCAR and race in the Cup Series. And it's the first time I'm able to say that I'll be a full-time Cup driver this year. So it's something I'm really looking forward to and excited for. I've been racing part-time the Cup Series since 2014, and I never really knew when my next race was always going to be. So now I know that'll be at the track every weekend, and that's huge. And it'll help me compete also better in the Cup Series. You're always better when you're in that type of car every single week, and you know what to expect, like I've been able to do in the Xfinity Series since 2014. So it'll be a little bit different not being full-time in the Xfinity Series this year, that's for sure, but it's definitely a good thing because like you said, I'll be full-time in the Cup Series.
Now you're driving for Rick Ware Racing. You've been on 6 different teams within your 41 Cup Series starts dating back to 2014. You've driven for the likes of Go Fast Racing, BK, Premium Motorsports, Starcom, MBM last year, and now your time with Rick Ware Racing will continue on after a few starts in the last 2 seasons. What is the most interesting aspect of working with an owner like Rick Ware, who's been in the business for a good number of years?
Yeah, like you said, Rick's been in the business for a long time, and he's done, all kinds of different racing. Most of the different owners I've worked with, they've always been just in stock car racing. If it was late models, ARCA, K&N, Cup, Xfinity trucks, just anything like that. Where Rick, he's been in the Cup Series for a couple of years now, but he's been in Xfinity, he's been in truck, K&N, but not only that, he also does, IMSA racing and a lot of different types of road course racing as well. So he definitely knows his way in and out of many different types of auto sports, not just NASCAR and stock car type racing. So it's pretty cool to be with an owner like that, and the family owned and run team by him and his wife Lisa, and it's a great organization that's quickly growing, and I'm very excited to be a part of that.
All right. So let's go back 1 year ago. You were with Carl Long's team, MBM Motorsports. It was the first time that you were with a full-time Toyota team and working with the TRD engines. And what was the difference between driving a Camry versus a Supra, just aerodynamically and mechanically?
Yeah, that's for the people that don't know, I guess exactly how what makes a Chevy or a Ford or Toyota. That was literally only the difference was a little bit aerodynamics. The Supra cut through the air a little bit better, and then also made a little more downforce. So that was definitely a plus, and something that we like. But other than that, the chassis and all that between the Toyota and the Supra are the exactly or it can be exactly the same. It's just because a body is a Supra body. The Supra that we have is probably the chassis is probably very different than the chassis that Joe Gibbs Racing has. The makes of the cars are purely just the bodies and then the engines as well. Those are the only difference. But if you have a Toyota engine, it's the same if it's a Supra or a Camry. But the good folks over at Toyota, we did have a small technical alliance with them, not a big one, but their help that they did give us did go a long ways.
That's great. Justin, I'm going to lend this one to you. Let's hear what you have to ask.
Phew. Oh, my question is about when you were racing at MBM, you had like Timmy Hill, like experienced driver. How is it like racing against someone like at your team that has good experience in those types of cars?
It was good. Timmy and we actually have about the same amount of experience, and he just raced for Carl a much longer time than I have, and he's been with the organization much longer. But it was good to where I could lean on Timmy on what he thought was going on with his car and going on with the race.
All right. So I got another question. Is my mic working?
Yeah, your mic's working.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on, but
Um, so my next question I have here
there's
is this is back to Xfinity and working with Archie St. Hilaire in the Go Green Racing team. When you had your first start in 2011, as it just with an 18-year-old mindset, if you could go back to 2011, what would you do differently?
his internet cut out or something. I don't know. I heard something.
While we handle some technical difficulties, let's go ahead and talk about um, the NASCAR um, Cup Series for a little bit. So, Martin Truex Jr. has a new crew chief. And we apologize for the technical difficulties. For some reason, we're not getting Joey Gase's end of things.
We could. I can. He can hear.
Yeah.
It's probably
What if he leaves and comes back? Let me try that.
maybe.
Yeah.
Wait.
That's what he's
Remember
doing.
he said he was in the hospital. Remember he
Yeah,
said
that
he
is
was in the
true. He's
hospital.
still in the hospital, as you know.
So the internet might be not the
Might be
best
a little bit
quality
different.
because it's a hospital.
True.
Then at his house, probably his house, the Wi-Fi is better. Maybe I don't know. Because I don't go to people's houses and search their Wi-Fi. No, that's not me. I'm just saying that might be the difference.
Yeah.
What? Not 20. I was kind of confused because I was just looking at Bristol 2019 when Timmy Hill got 7. I'm like, where did Gase finish?
Where
Because I
did he
didn't see his
finish?
name. He actually finished 20th.
That's actually
But
not bad.
but Timmy Hill, remember he had the Carl Long owner. Remember what they had? They had the Hattori equipment inside, and Timmy Hill got 7th.
All right, we got him back, guys. Here he is.
Okay.
Hey guys, you got me?
Yep.
Yes,
Okay,
everything's
awesome.
fine now. Now, Justin, you were asking something just before he left.
I was
We
saying
could
about
backtrack a little bit.
Timmy Hill. How was it good to have like a teammate like that, being like that has a lot of experience racing? Like basically saying,
Yeah, it was good. Tammy and I have about the same amount of experience and actually about the exact same age as each other, so it was good, and we became good friends. And anytime I was wondering about something about the track, if he was able to go out before I was, or trying to compare cars and notes, that was someone that I could really do that well with, and it was the same way for him. So it was something I enjoyed. And the other thing was too, like we would switch back and forth on a cup car as well. So some weekends he would drive it, and some weekends I would drive it. And that way, if the the good news was about that, if I said something the car was doing, and maybe the car owner or crew chief didn't agree with that, if Timmy jumped in the car and said the same thing, well, then they know they have some other things to work on than the driver. So it was good that we both could compare notes and see if we would feel the same thing that each other felt. We definitely like to drive different setups, but for the most part, it was normally the same.
And speaking of Timmy Hill, he has a team. He's an owner of a team that he's made with his brother Tyler Hill in the
that's
truck
right.
series, which you have a pretty decent truck as far as I've seen.
But
What is the chances of you driving for them, number 56?
You never say never. That's for sure. I think you're going to see Timmy drive the truck at least most of the year or the start of the year, but you never know. Maybe some places like Iowa or something like that where I'm from, I'll call Timmy up and see if I can get in the seat for a race or two.
Yeah, that's always a good one. And speaking of which, they had the best finish so far, fifth at Martinsville this past October
yeah.
in a very good race. Now, speaking of teammates, he had some other guys join MBM Motorsports last year, such as Chad Fincham. And what was that like working with a guy like Chad Fincham?
You know, it was good. It was, he didn't have quite the same experience as Timmy and I had, but he had a little over a full year of Xfinity under his belt as well, and he was someone that was actually at NBA Motorsports the year before as well. So, him and Timmy were definitely used to how NBA Motorsports was ran. So, anytime I had a questions about the team, or same thing, just comparing notes or anything like that, I can do that with Chad as well.
So yeah, that gets me to the owner now. You were working with Carl Long, a very seasoned driver for many different teams in his career. Carl Long, of course, and then you driving for him. How did you and him work together?
We worked good for the most part, and he's like you said, he's a very seasoned owner and driver, as a lot of the owners are. But the one thing that was unique with him is that he would still drive himself from time to time. So he was definitely more, I guess, up the par as far as knowing what the cars would do or wouldn't do as far as on the Xfinity side, where some of the other guys I drove for, they're definitely seasoned vets, but they haven't been in the car that we race in now ever, or they haven't raced for themselves for a really long time. So that was the one cool thing that you could do with Carl, is that he was actually in the car quite a bit the year before, and then he was in the car once or twice
Yeah.
in 2019 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he sounds like a pretty hands-on guy to me. And of course, I know they finished in the top 10 a few times on the plate tracks, Daytona, Talladega. You see
But
Timmy Hill out there.
but remember, not just play tracks, including got a seventh place at Bristol in the number 61, which really was really good for him.
Was that I think that was a collaboration with Shigeaki Hattori.
Yeah, and also Austin Hill drove a collaboration with Hattori at Indianapolis. I just remembered about Austin Hill would have made he got a top 10 in that one start at Indy, which he got ninth, but it was collaboration with Hattori at Indy.
I wanted to ask you, Joey, how did that collaboration come to fruition?
Yeah, like you said, that was definitely a group effort between Toyota and MBM and Shatori Racing. That was something that where they had a sponsor and they wanted to, and their sponsor wanted to race in the Xfinity series, and they didn't have Xfinity series cars, so they had to be with the Toyota team, and on Carl's team and BM Motorsports was here, and they came over, and Carl and him sat down and came out of the deal, and it was able to be a really good group effort and something that helped out the whole team for sure, and helped put the team on the map, and they're able to get some of Gibbs engines and stuff like that for like ND and stuff like that to get some really big power underneath the hood that at a track like Indy is obviously a very big, and they're able to help as far as get more support from Toyota, and then also have a big tire budget as well. That's one thing that a lot of people don't realize as well with small teams. We'd only use used parts. A lot of times, unfortunately, if we don't have enough sponsorship money for that weekend, we actually also run on used tires as well from the top teams that they either used in practice or from the night before from a truck team or something like that.
Wow. So yeah, it's just you have 5 more minutes. So let's get into, because we don't have that much time. Let's make the most out of this. We got some questions about the Cup Series. You had 2 Daytona 500 appearances. One that was successful 2 years ago. Unfortunately, this year the same could not be said. I want to know about you in the Daytona 500. 2017, you started next to 2-time winner Michael Waltrip and getting in the race driving for BK Racing. How did that come through?
Yeah, it was a deal, a couple different things where they saw what I could do at the super speedways, obviously with such a small team like Jimmy Means Racing, and then I had a great sponsor as well in Best Home Furnishing that won the run that race. So it was a partnership that all came together, and that weekend of Speed Weeks was definitely by far one of my favorite week and a half that I can remember in racing, from finishing 23rd in the Daytona 500 and being the highest finishing rookie in that race and being strong the whole time. And we just got caught up in a couple, but we got to the end. And then from being second with 1 lap to go in the Xfinity race the day before and getting shuffled back, and I think we finished sixth or seventh, but
It was seventh.
it was a heck of a weekend, and we had a lot of fun and made a lot of great memories. So hopefully I'll be able to take my experiences from that Daytona 500 and improve on that for 2020.
Yeah, and now in the 2019, and unfortunately that did not work out. Um, I remember in the duel you were duking it with Brendan Gaughan for about 5 good laps at the start of the duel.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were for sure. It was something to where a lot of people I think counted us out before we even got through that weekend, and then we had a lot of different problems and practice and qualifying, and we didn't have much time at all to get our travels right and stuff like that. And as you could see in that race, we were sparking a lot, but we were able to hang on there for about 10 or 15 laps and put on a good show for a little while. And unfortunately, we got teamed up against Brendan Gaughan. That was a single car team as well, but they had an alliance with RCR and an ECR engine, so all the Chevys and all the ECR cars teamed up against us to make sure they got the 62 in the show.
Yeah, and now speaking of those successful runs you've had in Xfinity, you just mentioned Daytona in 2017. You had a best career finish of 5th in that lead pack when Joey Logano won at Talladega. You were the car that finished in 5th place. It's your only top 5 in Xfinity to date. What was going through your mind in that lead pack on those last 10 laps?
You just go all out. I think it was actually maybe a green white, or I don't know if it was a green white checkered, but you just go all out and push, and you just you're just a racer, just like you would at any other track, and it hits you after the race is over what you just accomplished, and that was a very special day. That race, we actually barely made the race. I think we were the last car to get in and started like 39th, and that's the really cool things about the super speedways is that the draft is such a big equalizer, and if you can work the draft to your advantage and stay out of trouble, you can be there at the end and get a good finish. And that's that's a great thing about the super speedways is that even the small budget teams have a chance to win or get a really good finish.
Yeah, Justin, I want to let you to have a few more questions because I know he doesn't have that much time left. So, what do you got there?
Uh, about your new deal with Rick Ware. How is it gonna be with teammate JJ Ailey, which JJ was also announced? How is it gonna be like you racing with JJ Ailey, which has a lot of experience in the Cup Series?
It's going to be good. He's like you said, he has a lot of experience in the Cup Series and been around a long time. And he's not only been on small teams, but he's also been on the big daddies like Joe Gibbs Racing. So he definitely knows the in and out of the sports and what it's like to be on the top, and then what it's like to be on the smaller teams as well. So I'm definitely looking forward to that and being able to lean on a really good teammate like that.
That's great. And I also have another thing I'd like to ask you about was you're going to race this full Cup Series season. Um, does your car have a charter to get into the race, or will you have to
Uh,
fight in?
yes, it all depends on the weekends and stuff like that. We're still trying to figure out the driver lineup specifically for the 500, but almost every weekend I will be in a charter car.
Yeah, because I know there's a lot of things you can take from experiences that were successful like 2017 and maybe not so successful like 2019 that you can build after time. You said that being in the Cup Series, you get to learn from the big guys, even in a car like Rick Ware Racing that may not be the best. There's still that experience by being with the best drivers, and that gets me another question: road course racing. What's the one thing about road course racing which makes it different than on the ovals?
There's a ton of stuff, everything.
Does
um,
it beat up the car more, like inside?
Yeah.
I mean, you just work different muscles. On the oval, you're constantly working the same muscles over and over again. Where on the road course, you're working different muscles every corner.
Yeah.
And on the road course, you're constantly shifting to where in the oval, once you're in high gear, you just stay in that gear. So I would say that's the one of the biggest things to get back used to is shifting every lap and how to do it correctly. And that's one of the big dangers on a road course is that it's very easy to miss a shift and hurt your drivetrain or motor.
Yeah, and that's actually a very interesting thing because I know you're driving for a team that is in sports car racing, and who knows, maybe you'll be in an LMP2 car someday in the near future. But I know we're running out of time. Thank you so much for joining us, Joey, and hopefully you're always invited to come back.
Yeah, thank
Congratulations
you.
on the kid, on the twins. Hopefully they'll get better, and I know you're doing this from the hospital, so I really thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for much having me on, and hope you guys have a good rest of the night.
Thank you and good luck. So yeah, that was Joey Gase, and we finally clicked off our first Cup driver from our checklist. That was cool. Let's get into further headlines that took place throughout the week, including Haley Deegan. I'm going to go back to Haley Deegan. Is this deal going to benefit her and benefit Ford, or
Ooh,
is she going to fall through the cracks here?
ooh, that is tough. That is kind of tough because oh my gosh, well, come on, I'm messing everything up. It's gonna be kind of tough because she's not run a full time ARCA deal yet. She raced part time for Van Remy, but it's a Toyota. At Ford, the chassis might be different, and she's never raced at Daytona, which she's never raced on a big track like that.
Right, but it's all about learning in ARCA.
Yeah, like she has to
Getting them
learn.
as much laps as possible. That's one good thing I noticed about Haley Deegan is she's willing to sacrifice aggression
Yeah,
to log in the laps for experience, which is very important for any young driver coming into the NASCAR levels.
right.
You want as much seat time as possible,
Yeah,
which includes avoiding some aggressive moves early in the race just to be in it at the end.
yeah,
And sometimes slow and steady wins the race. We've seen that a lot in the past in racing in general.
yeah.
So there's that. And
But
also DGR Crossy Racing.
not D. No, it's not
Not
DJR Team Penske.
no. But I'm talking about DGR Team Crosley. When
Yeah,
they join Ford now, this is a very important step for them. And Haley Deegan, of course, joining along with them.
yep.
This is either a hit or miss deal. I think it's going to be a good hit. They're not going to miss. They're not going to mess this one up. I think Haley Deegan has what it takes. She might run a few truck races. I hope she races at Eldora. It would be a fun one for sure.
But also, I'm looking. She's not the only rookie in ARCA. We have Drew Dollar driving for Venerini in the number 15. He basically taking over the seat of the champ, Christian Eckes. He's replacing Eckes. He might be a contender too. Drew Dollar really did good in the K&N series last year. He might improve with ARCA. He's run good in ARCA also. He used to run for DGR actually in the Toyota camp, but he's still with Toyota.
Yes, he's a Toyota driver, so that means he's staying with the
Yeah.
Toyota camp
So
and Venerini.
Yeah, he'll be. And Ryan Repko, 5 races. Chandler Smith will run 13, including the 10 races in the showdown, which.
Chandler Smith is going to be a threat to win that Showdown Cup.
Like, you see how good he is. Like, he has
He'll be
nice.
splitting that car with Ryan Repko.
And a driver for 2 other races. Someone else will drive 2 races. Like, Chandler
That might be
Smith.
Michael Self.
Yeah. Or Michael Self could drive the 25 again. I don't know if the 25 will be available because so far we only have the 15 and 20 car confirmed.
I mean, it would be nice to see Michael Self come back because he was very close to winning the championship last year, and I think, or actually this year, 2019. But he definitely has what it takes to get the title. It's an interesting field. I tell you that ARCA, of course, has a bright future ahead. Let's talk about sports car racing. You want to get into sports car racing?
Texted by a random number. What?
I had those too, man.
I know the 06 is Tim Richmond's back full time, 06 car.
And I think maybe this year I've kind of given up on the Tim Richmond jokes.
But he's actually running the full season. He's running full time in the 06. So that means Con Nicolopoulos not going to drive the 06. I want the 0 full time with Con Nicolopoulos.
That's a Wayne Peterson car.
Yeah, with the taxi paint scheme again.
Yeah. Let's see what else we have here. Yeah, there was sad news from this past week. 1960 Daytona 500 champion and 6-time championship owner Junior Johnson had passed away at the age of 88. And if you look at his resume, he's unbelievable. 50 Cup Series victories and probably one of the best drivers never to win a championship in the series. Junior Johnson, of course, was a championship owner of drivers such as Cale Yarborough and Darrell Waltrip when they won their respective championships. And certainly a sad moment because Junior Johnson was known as the last great American hero, and he'll certainly be missed. You know, I grew up watching, and I wasn't when I grew up, I wasn't alive when his team was at its peak. I didn't get to see all their glory with Darrell Waltrip and Cale Yarborough.
I'm back.
You know, I didn't get to see that Holly Farms car every week. While in other years, people 10 years older than me or 20 years older than me got to grow up watching those cars race. Darrell Waltrip and winning those 3 championships for Junior Johnson, half of his 6 titles. And I think the 1960 Daytona 500 was a very important race because he discovered the use of drafting, which is a slipstream behind the car to
Yeah.
get speed. So you don't have to go as far hard on the gas as the car ahead of you because you're in the air of the other car. You get to stay in the pack. A very important discovery made by Junior Johnson in his victory back in the 1960 Daytona 500, the second ever running of the great American race. So with that said, there's another race going on in Daytona. We're going to get into sports car racing because there's a lot that's taking place right now.
What the?
The 2020 Rolex 24 entry list was revealed on motorsport.com.
Not just that, also IMSA website, but it's not the drivers, it's the cars.
Right.
Basically,
It's not finalized, of course. We still have a while
Oh,
before they're finalized.
yeah.
But from what we have now, we can get a good firsthand picture of what's to come.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, it's not a PDF document. But so far in the GPI class, we do have teams entered, such as Mustang Sampling Racing, which is under the JDC Miller Motorsports team. The two Penske entries from Acura ARX 05 DPIs, number 6 and 7. Wayne Taylor Racing, defending winner. Number 10 Cadillac. Wheelan Engineering Racing from Action Express, number 31. Then you got the two Mazdas, as well as the number 85 JDC Miller Motorsport car. So there's a lot to look forward to. There's many things you can look at there. There's only 8 cars, but I'm sure that list is going to increase.
Matthias Lace, he actually joined JDC Miller in the 85 for the endurance races, which really good for him. Matthias Lace.
Looking at the LMP2 class, it has increased. It's going to be a lot more competitive than last year for sure. With new teams such as Rick Ware Racing. We have
look at this lineup for the 2 car for Rick Ware. That's a good lineup.
Yeah, Cody Ware, Mark Vam, James Davison, John Hogard. Then you have, of course, Starworks is back.
Ryan Dalzio, John Ferrano, David Heinemeier.
David Heinemeier Hansen, Danish guy, and Nicolas Lapierre. Aero Motorsports is back. Good to see Performance Tech return. These are teams that we've seen from the LMP2 racing and across the pond.
PR1 Matheson, they have 2 cars now. They have the 51 and 52. They used to only have the 52.
And of course, last year's winning Dragon Speed team,
81, with Ben Hanley, Henrik Hedman, Colin Braun, and Jonathan. How is Hogard in 2 different cars?
That's a good question. I know in some endurance races, and this is the first edition of the entry list. It's definitely going to change over time. But in some endurance races, there are legal rules that allow drivers to drive in 2 cars in one race. In fact, a good example might be Mark Scaife in the 1991 Bathurst 1000. He drove a car that retired from the race, but he was also part of the car that won when Jim Richards gave them a win.
You know what's annoying? Pastor Maldonado's not in the cars so far.
Let's not get started with Pastor Maldonado. Okay, the GTLM class, of course, if you know, it's very identical to the GTE cars that you see in the WEC. But so far, BMW has kept their program alive in North America while their worldwide program has come to a halt. Corvette is back, and they're going to debut the new C8Rs. And by the way, that's why they're not racing in WC right now. They plan to put everything on hold and just begin on a clean slate at Daytona with the new car.
I'm looking at. There's two new drivers at Corvette: Nikki Katzberg and Jordan Taylor.
Nicky Katzberg, of course, was a BMW driver for a while. He also drove for Volvo in the touring cars, the WTCC edition for Polestar Racing back in the past.
Jordan Taylor used to drive for Wayne Taylor, and then he's. But also, remember, Jan Magnussen that used to drive the number 3, he retired. Remember, Jan Magnussen retired.
Yes, and he's going to support his son's F1 endeavors. Of course, Kevin Magnussen, as we speak.
Yeah.
BMW returns with their winning lineup.
They have
John Edwards, Jesse Krohn, Farfus, Chaz Mostert.
Mostert, he's going to run. Colin Herta, again, will be running. Remember, Colin Herta actually ran Daytona last year.
Yeah, he was part of the winning team.
The 25, he's back. We also
Connor
have
DeFilippe, Bruno Spengler, the Canadian.
and Philippe Eng will join with Colin Herta.
Right.
Rizzi Competizione has a car number 62, which has.
They won Le Mans. They won Petit Le Mans. Can they win Daytona and continue their hot streak?
I just noticed 3 of the 4 drivers, which is Pierre Guidi, Carlotto, and David Regon, they all drive for AF Course in the GTE Pro.
Yes. The chemistry is on a good high note, which is very important. Their usual lineup.
Tandy, Makowicki, Matt Campbell in the 911, 912, Bamber, Van Thor, and Geminet.
And of course, they race together elsewhere.
18. We have 18 cars for GT.
And as usual, the GT Daytona class, of course, is the most competitive class in the field, consisting of GT3 competition. And of course, last year, we'll get into them in just a moment. Path Motorsport, the Canadian team, they're back. Patrick Pile, who was with the factory Porsche team,
he joins them with Kern,
joins the GT3 team
with Lars Kern, Dennis Olsen, and Zach Robichon. GRT Grasser Racing.
The team, these guys won the race last year.
They'll be with Frank Stengian. It's a Russian
Steinian. It's a Dutch name.
Short.
Richard Highstand, Albert Costa. And then Ambassador Sullivan has some new names to their Lexus team, including 2 drivers from very competitive racing series, including a former Supercars champion and a former NASCAR champion, Shane Van Gisbergen, Kyle Busch, and then you got guys like Jack Hawksworth, the factory driver,
Parker Chase, and we have
veterans like Townsend Bell, Monty Calvo.
Yeah, we have Parker Chase also. Wright Motorsports will enter a Porsche. Number 16.
You got a veterans. Look at this. Ryan Hardwick, Klaus Bachler, Patrick Long.
Anthony Imperato, Klaus Bachler.
It gets even better. I mean, you look at this. Lamborghini has a new team called Gear Racing, powered by GRT Grasser and the Huracan.
It's all girls.
All females. Catherine Legg, Christina Nilsson, Anna Beatrice, Tatiana Calderon. Calderon was an F2 driver. Anna Beatrice and Catherine Legg were former F1 drivers. Christina Nilsson is a former champion. That's a great lineup right there.
Yep. Heart of Racing will race.
Yeah, remember, this is their first time. Sorry to cut you off, but this is the first time Aston Martin will bring their North American program back.
Yeah. They'll race with Alex Riberas, Roman DeAngelis, Ian James, and Nicky
Tim.
Nicky Tim, we've seen him race for the Aston Martins, like
their GT Pro team
in WEC. Like he races for them. Which
yes, he's a factory driver. In fact, if you know Nicky Tim, he was the guy who replaced Alan Simonson after he tragically passed away at Le Mans in 2013.
Magnus,
a fellow Dane himself.
Magnus Racing, they actually closed, so GRT Magnus is now a thing. So it's a Grasser team with Magnus Racing, basically. We'll have
so basically they're teammates with number 19.
Yeah, and the number 11. With Andy Lally, John Potter, and Spencer Pumpelly.
Very veteran lineup right there. That's a good lineup. And we see 2 more Lamborghinis there. Number 47, number 48, Palmer Racing. You got Brian Sellers. Let's look downwards.
Black Swan Racing will race a Porsche. Oh,
let's see.
Racing with Meyer Shank.
Number
It's back.
57 has a new lineup with drivers such as Trent Hinman, Mika Gleichberg, Alvaro Parente, AJ Allmendinger. While number
Yeah.
86 has Mario Farnbecker, Matthew McMurray, Shinya Michimi,
Mishimi.
and Jules Gunion.
And we have the Ferrari number
Yes, a
63.
factory-supported GT3 team
Yeah.
on Scuderia Corsa. Cooper McNeil,
Tony Villander,
Violander,
Alexandro
Alessandro
Bal-
Balzon, and Jeff Westphal. That's a great lineup right there.
Riley Motorsports, number 74 Mercedes, Lawson Aschenbach, Gar Robinson, and Ben Keating. That's a
I'm very surprised that Joran Blinkerman is not on that lineup, but I have a good feeling that he will end up being that fourth driver because you can have 3 or 4 drivers.
We also have the number 88 WRT Speedstar Audi Sport with Mirko Bortolotti, Dries Van Thor, Rolf oh my gosh,
In Icon.
and Daniel Morad will be driving the 88 for Speedstar Audi Sport.
Turner Motorsport in the BMW GT3.
And the Aston Martin 98 will have Pedro Lamy,
Pedro Lamy, Matthias Lauda, Ross Gunn, and Paul Dalla Paul Dalla is from Vancouver.
You know Paul Dalla and Ross Gunn and Matthias Lauda? They actually drive in their WEC program.
Yes, there are factory drivers for Aston Martin.
Like
I think there's a lot of entries that are not confirmed yet, such as Land Motorsport, number 29 Audi. You know, they usually come in to these races. The 2017 Nürburgring 24-hour champions. Speaking of Nürburgring, Toyota and Lexus have announced their plans to race in the Nürburgring 24 hours, which is, you know, they put a lot of money with their Gazoo racing program. Of course, Toyota Gazoo Racing has a lot of stake in their WEC program, very successful LMP1 team, but they also have some GT4 cars that will be ran at the 24 hours of Nürburgring. This year, it will be during Memorial Day weekend.
Hey, Joseph, you just saw I put in the private chat.
Yeah, Boston's winning 3-0 versus Washington right now.
The Nesson logo is bad, just for people to know. But
Florida Panthers down 2-0 against Tampa Bay right now.
But also about Memorial Day for Nürburgring. Remember we had that in 2017?
Yes, and 2016.
I remember 2017. We were on Skype watching the race, the Xfinity race, and watching that at the same time. Ian was raging about Ryan Blaney winning. Even if you like Ryan Blaney, I was ranting about Kevin Harvick. Oh, yeah, we're not too happy.
That was actually my graduation party.
I remember
because I was class of 17, and I had all my friends over that weekend, and it was a good time because I finally got to feel released from high school, and I watched all those great races, including the Nürburgring 24 hours, which Land Motorsport Audi. If you remember, they forgot to put fuel in the car after changing tires.
Oh, yeah.
But while they were refueling the car, it started storming. Of course, Nürburgring's so big, only a good chunk of the track was being rained. So they actually changed the tires as a result of, putting the fuel back in. And many thought, oh, they're done. There's no way they're going to win the race, right? While Nicky Katzberg in the BMW is on dry tires, skidding around in the wets. Yeah. And in fact, he caught up so much because of being on the wets. Then I forgot who was behind the wheel of that Audi.
I don't know.
I think it was Christopher Mees or something like that. But then at that moment, at the end of the long straightaway, he slid to avoid, some of the touring cars to go around the hatchbacks at the end of the straightaway. And he was slid in the grass to get around the BMW. It was a pass in the grass. And the Audi never looked back. They won the race. Crazy story, but it took place.
And also remember about that weekend with all those Cup drivers. I remember when Cale Conley drove the 24 and spun qualifying. And I remember he spun the race, and you're Joseph. And don't know what you said about it. He's probably looking at Richard Childress. Put me in the 3. You were saying that.
He did used to drive for Richard Childress Racing.
In the 33, and that did not go well. Really did not.
That's an interesting story. In fact, that's a team that's no longer there anymore, JGL Racing. But let's take a look.
Uh,
Honda has announced their plans for the Bathurst 12 Hours. They've got some NSX GT3s ready to go. So I'm sure those names we announced before for the Rolex 24 Daytona will be seen at the Bathurst 12 Hours, which is literally a week after Daytona. And a good chunk of those drivers will be going from Daytona to Bathurst, the Mount Panorama, that following week.
it is January 31st to February 2nd, which February
So
2nd is also the Super Bowl.
Yes.
For people to know.
Let's see what else we got here. Brendan Gaughan has announced retirement plans after 2020. He's already a semi-retired driver. He's racing in select events, but he said that 2020, that will be it.
He's racing the 4 restrictor plates again in the number 62.
And after we saw Talladega last year in the Daytona 500 in 2018, he's going to give it all. He's going to give everything he has to win those races. That's his only goal, to win.
But we know they have some RCR equipment. Remember earlier when Joey was on, he said that he had Austin Dillon and Ty Dillon with RCR equipment helping.
Take a look at the Duel 2 race and you'll understand what we're talking about. It's a very interesting story.
And Joey Gase was side by side with Brendan Gaughan for so many laps, but that was a good battle.
Oh, yeah, like the first
15
laps, 15 laps of the race, they were duking it out like it was the final lap, and like they were the only 2 cars on track. It almost looked like that.
Yeah, it was me, you, and a couple other people on Skype at the same time during those.
I do remember that.
I remember, like, oh my goodness, like that they were side.
Shows you how big it is to make the Daytona 500.
And I remember people thought it was boring at the end. Remember Clint Boyer was ahead, leading. People thought, he's gonna start. He's gonna win.
And here comes Joey Logano. He had such a big run, like
with Ryan Blaney
boom
behind him, and that put Logano with the win. So Logano started forward, which people were yelling at Logano.
No, I guess everyone's gonna be butthurt. Let's be real. You can't cater to the whole world. There's always gonna be a 20% who will just be at the worst pity over some race. It's one thing I've learned about social media. They come out of the woods and have to say something that's completely irrational. But the problem is that they're there. Let's see what else we have. Daniel Ticktum, a driver who's a little controversial in the past, but he's a multi-time Macau winner. He's going to drive for the Williams development program after being released from the Red Bull Junior team.
Wow.
And made some controversy. I don't want to get in there, but he's going to get that second chance with Claire Williams and the Williams team. I think this is a good deal. I do like Daniel Ticktum from what I've seen, especially from the races at Macau. He's got a bright future ahead, and especially from what he did in the Super Formula Series. So there's that. Let's see, BMW, they announced their lineup. We just talked about them earlier.
I just have to check something about F2C. I just have to go check some information of that. Why did I put 2019 Formula 2? That we're not 2019 next year.
Nope.
We're not going back to like 2019 then 2019 again. No, that does not happen. Dan Ticktum is actually going to drive for DAMS.
That's a very successful F2 team as far as I'm concerned.
He's going to be teammates with Sean Galeo next year there. And he'll be racing against... He'll be one of the rookies against... He's basically going for Rookie of the Year against Robert Schwartzman. If you don't know...
Robert Schwartzman. Didn't he win Macau?
He won the Formula 3 championship.
Oh, that's who it was.
He was the F3 champion. So, yeah, that's going to be a good battle for the rookies. But, yeah, he'll be racing. And we might, like, in the future see Dan Ticktum
be a test driver, possibly?
Yeah, because
remember
right now,
Nicholas Latifi
did this year, but now he's racing, replacing Robert Kubica at Williams for the 2020 season.
So yeah, there we have it. Now speaking of Formula One, Charles Leclerc has been signed to another 5 years with his Ferrari contract.
Till 2024. Yeah, that's a
This
good
was the
sign.
right move, right, Justin?
Yeah, really good move because Charles have been doing better than people have been
I think
people
Charles Leclerc is the best thing Ferrari has right now.
like
Now, you've heard me criticize the people behind the pit walls, the management system of that team. Of course, many alike have the same collective thought that I have about
yeah,
Noto and all
Ferrari
those
and
guys that they
Ferrari.
what they do. But listen, Charles Leclerc, you can't replace driver talent, no matter what the antics may be.
Yeah,
And Leclerc's 2 wins, especially the one at Belgium,
yeah,
was a great um, demonstration on what the future of Ferrari will look like. They
like
need Charles Leclerc as much as Charles Leclerc needs Ferrari.
like remember that also. I remember at
How
what
about
was
Italy?
yeah, but
Very popular one.
Belgium when he won at Belgium, people think he pulled away. Lewis was right there on him. Like he was gaining on him. Like if Lewis had more laps, Lewis could have passed him.
I
Like
remember
Lewis,
watching that A-Stream link through the hotel because of all the channels. For some reason in my room, ESPN2 had to be the one that wasn't working. But at least, I had people that were smart enough to know the
I
ways around that.
I remember that was the sad
Hurt.
weekend.
Yeah, when they lost in 20.
Saturday. Yeah, I remember that.
And then let's see, what else do we have here? I'm just looking around to see if we already talked about James Small, Merchant Jr.
Joey,
Yeah, Joey Gase, as he explained
Rico,
earlier tonight, he will be with Rico Racing full time in the 2020 NASCAR Cup season.
with alongside JJ Yaley. Yeah, Yaley will be in one of the other cars.
Let's take a look. I think we've covered everything, Justin.
Let me
You
go.
got plans for
Not
got
much.
plans for Christmas?
The only thing I'm doing, I'm going to my dad's parents on Christmas Day, which is Wednesday, and tomorrow, which I'm already at my grandparents here. I'm gonna help her. I'm gonna be opening my gifts at my grandparents here tomorrow,
Nice.
and then yeah, let me go check if there's any other things. See if there's any other.
I know we have a Champ Car Endurance Series race this weekend. Their last race of the 2019 tour, a double 7-hour race called a Sebring New Year's Eve, and I think Danny's coming back here, so we can bring in Danny to this discussion. How's it going, Danny?
Yeah, I'm good. Sorry I took off for a bit. I had to do some stuff.
That's all good. We don't have too much time left on here, so what would you like to talk about?
Ah, man.
Wait,
What you guys got planned for Christmas, man? I know I'm working on Christmas Eve, which is tomorrow. That was kind of a bummer, but Wednesday and Thursday I'm off, so that's a good part.
I'm just
What you guys got going on?
quickly.
I'm just gonna hang around with my family for this year. As Justin explained, he's gonna be with his grandparents.
Yeah, man. I'm thinking about going like into the city. I haven't been. Maybe go to the zoo. Just spend some time at the zoo. Just kind of get away from the
Yeah,
cars
you're
a little
tempting me to
bit.
go to the Lion Country Safari, but that's a long drive from here. It's like one of South Florida's best zoos. It's in.
For real,
It's
dude.
like a.
You gotta come up to
I
New
do.
York for the Bronx Zoo. What's crazy? I haven't been to the Bronx Zoo in like a long time. Last time I went was in 2010.
Wow.
That's a very long time, bro.
Hey Joseph, you were saying about that Sebring race for Champ Car
Hold on
Endurance?
a bit.
Let's buy this car, a Nissan
Murano?
2006. Let's
I
race
remember
that.
For how
when
much?
that's like a car a mom would pick up her kids in.
I know, right?
Not a race car, but
It's
is it seriously eligible to be raced?
I don't know. What about this car? A 2005 Aveo in Palm Coast for $600. Oh my god!
I think I know what I'm doing on Skype with you guys when we get off.
Looking for Or
Yes, we're gonna be looking for clunkers
oh,
on
come
Craigslist. I
on!
think that's our.
I wish they accepted
Oh
that.
no.
That's a good safety truck, I'm sure. Clean up
Yeah,
debris.
yeah, but that's weird. They should accept ice cream trucks or delivery
Yeah,
trucks.
or that mail truck. That mail truck that comes around.
Or I found for 6,900 in Palm Coast a 2011 Honda Civic. They don't accept this. It's $16,000. A 1929 Ford. They won't accept that.
No, because you can't put a roll cage in a 1929 Ford Model T. But I'm sure at that time period it was
How I don't even know how
a
much
revolutionary car.
the car can't even go like 100 miles. It can't even go
Probably
fast.
can't even hit 40 miles an hour.
We'll be there. We'll be lapped in like a lap. We'll be lapped right away.
You're getting very creative, but
Yeah.
But yeah, Danny, what else do you want to talk about?
Gosh, man.
About Haley Deegan.
Yeah, Haley Deegan, man.
How about that new ride?
Switching up to Ford now. That's awesome.
I think she's made the right decision because Toyota, if you look at Toyota and their developmental drivers, we got to look at. I mean, Christopher Bell, yeah, he's in the Cup Series now, but look below. You got Harrison Burton, Riley Herbst. You want to throw in someone like Rafael Losart, Christian Eckes, Chandler Smith. We're already at 5.
Yeah.
And then you look even further, Drew Dollar. If I'm missing anyone, I'm sure I'm missing
Diaz.
Mason
They
Diaz.
all switched to Ford, right?
No, these are Toyota drivers. I listed 7 of them, and yet their Cup Series program has 5 somewhat competitive cars.
Yeah.
And I don't see those drivers going anywhere.
That's cool.
Now in the Ford side of things, there's Austin Cindric, and no longer Cole Custer because he's up to the Cup levels.
Yeah.
But it's just really Austin Cindric. And maybe Ben Rhodes. Because I'm not going to put in a developmental driver as someone that experienced like Matt Kraft and Johnny Sauter, Grant Anfinger, of course, because they choose to be in the Truck Series.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if Ben Rhodes is that age of a developmental driver anymore because he's been racing for so many years. But still, you kind of understand the point I'm trying to put across here. Haley Deegan is really the second main Ford developmental driver that NASCAR has so far. It's the right move.
No, come on.
Yeah, it is the right move, man.
DGR Crosley Racing will be the team she drives for, which they are going from Toyota to Ford. And they might have another driver by the name of Todd Gilliland.
Oh, Google is pissing me off. I put Ben Rhodes. It gave me the writer for.
So does that mean?
It gave me a random. It gave me the writer.
So does that mean that where's Natalie Decker now?
Oh,
Well, that's a great question because I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, personally, I don't think she met what it takes. She did not do what it takes to be a successful Truck Series driver. And looking at some of the other drivers that were out there, like Rafael Losart, Tyler Ingram. There we go, Tyler Ingram. Many people thought, oh yeah, Dan Dunker's going to outperform Tyler Ingram because he's being jumped. Yeah, it was the other way around. This time, Tyler Ingram was outperforming.
Also, we have young talent like Carson Oswald will drive 9 races.
Tanner Gray.
Gray.
New driver, Tanner Gray. He'll be racing for the championship.
We know
he's got his younger brother, Taylor Gray, too.
You know the 44 truck for Nice Motorsports, they'll have Carson Hosfar 9 races.
Chastain will also be in that truck.
Part-time also.
Well, Ty Majeski, a former Ford driver, will be in that 45 truck racing for a championship.
Ben Rhodes is 22. But I just put Ben Rhodes. I thought it would give me the NASCAR driver. No, it gave me a writer for NBC News, which this guy's 42. I don't think Ben Rhodes is 42. I don't even know why.
No. But it does show he could be racing in NASCAR for a pretty long time.
Yeah, he's 22. He's born in 97. His first start in Xfinity was 20.
Remember, he had a contract with Junior Motorsports under the Hendrick program. That fell through unsuccessfully, and he rebounded through ThorSport in the Truck Series.
He ran 1 truck race in 2014. Then 2016 made his full-time start. driving the 41. It was 41. Yeah, he ran a couple races in 2014. 2015, no truck races. 2017, that's where he.
In 2016, he came back.
Yeah.
2017 was his breakthrough season.
Yeah. 2018, one win. 2019 was not the best.
No, but he was certainly pretty steady when needed to.
Like, his best finish in points was 5th in 2017. He finished last, he finished 8th last year, 9th this year.
So he was the first driver out of the cutoff playoff system.
In 2018, 9th. He finished 9th in the points. He didn't make the playoffs.
So yeah, there you have it. I think we've got everything announced. The first edition of the Daytona 24-hour entry list was revealed. It clearly will not look the same like it will be a month from now. We are pretty much about a good month from the race.
And also,
there's a lot of changes, a lot of new entries to come, and different drivers will, it's a big variety of drivers and teams.
Oh, I have big news for people. This is totally big news that people will be shocked. This just in, Kyle Larson won another dirt race.
How many of them will he win? He's won a lot to begin with.
He won the Gateway Nationals, but if he's entered in the Chili Bowl, he last year, remember,
he was so close.
And I got called Captain Einstein, but
just to be in the Chili Bowl is a win to begin with, because it's so hard to get in that race with all the heats and all the entries. We got hundreds and hundreds of cars,
and it's hard to and
the mains, the C mains, D mains, B mains, whatever.
You have like C main 1. You have too many C mains, so many B mains to get to the main race, which is the A main.
So imagine going through all those loopholes to win another race consecutively at Christopher Bell did, or in the past, like Rico Abreu was able to do. That's an amazing accomplishment that should be celebrated a lot more than it is. And I think sometimes dirt racing, people always say that dirt track racing is the undermined motorsport in America. And you know what? Sometimes I do have to agree on that. Yeah. They don't get as much national attention as that they should.
Yeah. Because
and
one thing, it's because the Chili Bowl is that broadcast. So Joseph, for the Chili Bowl, I'll turn on my camera to show you like my TV basically.
Yes, because unfortunately I do not get the channel. I know you have the channel. Some people still, it's like Fox Sports 2 or CBS Sports Network. Not everybody has it, but when they do, it's a good necessity.
For me, the only good thing about the month of January, I also get that free preview of Discovery Plus. You don't know, says on NBC Sports, but in Canada now it's Discovery Velocity. So I get.
Hey, next week the Supercross season starts.
Oh, next really?
Saturday.
Oh.
Is it Anaheim?
Yeah, Anaheim.
That's always a fun race to watch.
Yeah, man.
Oh my gosh, I cannot type. No, I don't want the Monster Energy video game.
Didn't Tomac win the title last year? But he won the motocross.
Yeah, he won. Yeah, he won it.
Supercross is basically a motocross in a stadium.
What? Is it?
Cooper Webb.
Cooper Webb. Cooper Webb won the championship
for Supercross.
Yeah.
Don't know what's weird. The first 3 races is Anaheim on January 4th, January 11th at St. Louis in St. Louis, and they race again at Anaheim on January 18th, Glendale on January 25th, February 1st at Oakland. When do they go after Oakland? February 8th at San Diego, Tampa on February 15th, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, February 22nd, Atlanta, Georgia, February 29th, Daytona will be March 7th.
Part of Daytona Bike Week.
Indy, the Lucas Oil Stadium at Indianapolis in March 14th, Ford Field in Detroit March 21st, Seattle, Washington March 28th. The last race will be on May 2nd, Salt Lake City, Utah, at Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Wow! So it's no longer going to be Sandboy Stadium, which is home of the fall tournament known as the Monster Energy Cup. So yeah, there's that. I think we have everything covered, guys.
Yeah.
Have a happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas.
Yep.
Enjoy the holidays.
Yep.
We will be back on December 30th, and there is another guest coming up. I'm just be on the lookout for announcements. It's going to be very interesting.
And
So have a great holidays from us. Yours truly, World Racing Media.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Yep.
Peace out.